Welcome, once again, to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight, we travel back even farther than castles or cloisters into the arid breath of the desert. To the slow curve of the Nile and the sun-baked rhythms of a civilization both ancient and enduring. You have likely heard of the Pharaoh's golden masks, towering pyramids, and grand tombs hidden beneath the sands. But that is not where we will begin. Tonight we will explore a different story. A story of those whose names were not carved in stone, who left no treasure behind, only footprints in riverbank mud and faded lines on papyrus. We will walk through the fields with the Egyptian peasant, wake with them before sunrise, listen to their prayers to humble gods, and feel the weight of baskets, taxes, and silence. We will then drift toward other corners of this rich and layered society. The viziers, the workers of Deir el-Medina, the tomb painters, the astronomer priests, the harpists, and the scribes. And, as always, we will move gently, slowly, without rush, letting the story of the Nile unfold like the annual flood, quiet, persistent, and utterly timeless. So take a deep breath. The stars above Egypt are the same stars that wheel above you now. Let us begin. Segment 1. Why you wouldn't last a day as an ancient Egyptian farmer. Imagine this. You rise well before the sun. Your limbs sore from the day before, the air still cool, but already tinged with dust. You are a peasant along the Nile, one of millions, your name unwritten, your labor eternal. There is no comfort to your morning, but there is routine. You sleep on a reed mat in a mud brick home. Your family is already stirring. A thin meal, perhaps bread from emmer wheat, or porridges shared quietly. There is no furniture to speak of. No privacy. No escape from the heat that is already beginning to build. Your tools are simple. A wooden plow, pulled by oxen, if you're lucky. More often by your own strength. You bend and dig, hour after hour, working not your own land, but land belonging to the temple, the Pharaoh, or the local overseer. The soil is rich. Yes, the Nile floods have blessed it. But you are at the mercy of calendars, gods, and scribes who come to tally your grain. And the taxes. Always the taxes. Each season, a man in a linen kilt arrives with a scroll and a pen made of reed. He counts your sacks of barley, your bales of flax. If there is less than expected, if a sandstorm came, or the locusts, you still pay. If not in grain, then in labor. Not in labor, then in lashes. There is no justice, only survival. And yet, life continues. Your children splash in the canal. Your wife bakes bread in a clay oven built into the earth. You offer a prayer to Tauret, goddess of childbirth, or to Hapi, god of the flood, whispering for mercy. There are moments of joy, a local festival, a cup of beer shared under palm shade, a reed flute playing somewhere nearby, but the rhythm never stops, your hands are never clean, your back never straightens fully. And so, if you imagine yourself in this world, barefoot, bent, sunburned, but alive, know that it is a life of cycles, of quiet endurance, of ritual and repetition. It is not glorious. It is not golden, but it is real. And it built the pyramids, the temples, and the stories we tell still today. Segment 2. The life of a scribe. Papyrus, power, and ink. Let us now step out of the sun-drenched fields and into a space more shaded. A chamber near the temple or government office. Inside, the scent is different. Here not sweat and earth, but papyrus, ink, and oil lamp smoke. This is where the scribe works. In ancient Egypt, to be a scribe was to rise above the dust of daily toil. It was not merely a job, it was a station, a privilege, a gateway into the administrative heart of an empire. Imagine yourself sitting cross-legged on a woven mat before you. A writing board, a palette of black and red ink, and fine brushes made from rushes. Your scroll is made of papyrus rolled tightly, its surface smooth and fibrous. The first lines must be perfect, even controlled. You were trained from childhood, likely at a school attached to a temple. You learned the hieratic script, a cursive shorthand of the more famous hieroglyphs. You memorized not only characters, but formulas, phrases of devotion, legal constructs, grain inventory terms. Your body, though not used in labor, still aches. Hours of careful posture, eyes strained, fingers ink-stained. Mistakes were not tolerated. Papyrus was expensive, and ink could run with a single, misplaced breath of wind. You do not speak much during the day. Your master may dictate a list of goods for a storehouse, Or perhaps you're copying a hymn for temple recitation, or writing a letter on behalf of a landowner, or calculating the yield of barley expected from a village you'll never see. With each stroke you hold power. You record births, deaths, laws, taxes, prayers. Grain flows through the land, but ink flows through the state. And you, the scribe, are its quiet vessel. Others bow their heads to priests or nobles, but when they need something remembered, proven, or authorized, they come to you. And still, the work is repetitive, meticulous, unseen. Some days you practice calligraphy. Others, you copy legal texts. Sometimes in the margin of a scroll, you might draw a cat or write a line of satire just for yourself. You eat simply bread, figs, a bit of cheese, maybe some salted fish if you're fortunate. You go home late, your fingers stained, your mind filled with symbols. You dream not in pictures, but in ink. And when you age, your eyes will weaken, your hands will tremble. And you'll train someone else, just as you were trained your legacy. It will not be in statues, nor tombs. It will be in scrolls that no one knows you wrote. In tax ledgers, love letters, hymns to the sun, in contracts for cattle and curses against thieves, in the quiet infrastructure that held Egypt together for 3,000 years. So now as you rest, imagine the soft rustle of papyrus, faint smell of ink and oil, the scratching of a stylus under a flickering flame. You do not rule, you do not pray, but you remember. And in Egypt, that was everything. Segment 3. The Mystery of Deir el-Medina. Secrets of the Tomb Builders. Now let us leave the broad sweep of the Nile's farmlands and follow a narrow desert road, past cliffs scorched by the sun, past quiet rocks that remember every footstep. We arrive at a village unlike any other Deir el-Medina. Tucked into the western hills near Thebes, this was no ordinary settlement. It was a purpose-built village, created to house Egypt's most skilled artisans, the workers who constructed and decorated the royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Here lived painters, stonecutters, draftsmen, plasterers, and supervisors. They were not noble, yet their lives were more secure than most. The village was walled, protected, and provisioned directly by the state. Imagine yourself there. The houses are small, but well-built mud brick structures arranged neatly along a central path. Inside, cool plastered walls are sometimes painted with simple floral patterns or protective deities. Each morning you rise before the sun. Short hike across the cliffs leads to your true place of work, a royal tomb hidden in the folds of stone. You descend carefully, torch in hand, into the dark, sacred space where the king's eternity is being prepared. The air down there is cool, dry, and thick with the scent of paint, plaster, and sweat. You work in near silence, your brush guided by lines laid out by the chief draftsman. The scenes are precise. Solar boats, gods with animal heads, spells from the Book of the Dead. Mistakes are unacceptable. These images are not art, they are spiritual architecture, intended to ensure the king's safe passage to the afterlife. Your materials are ground minerals, malachite for green, ochre for red, lapis for blue, brushes made of reeds, a small water jar beside your feet, a torch casting flickering shadows on the wall. And yet, despite the gravity of the task, there is humor in your community. Back in the village, graffiti appears on rocks, jokes, love notes, lewd cartoons. Astraca are used to write casual messages, sketches, and even complaints. You have time off. The state allows for rest days and festivals. You are paid in kind. Food, beer, linen, oil. Your family is here. Your children play under the watch of Hathor, protector of the West. And still, things are not perfect. The village experiences strikes some of the earliest recorded labor protests in history. When wages are delayed, you and your peers lay down your tools and demand fairness. Your names are recorded. You're remembered not only for what you built, but for how you lived. Archaeologists, centuries later, would unearth your homes, your letters, your sketches, and dreams. They would read of your neighbors' disputes, your offerings to the gods, the poems you wrote for your wife. You were not royalty. You were not poor. You were in between in status, in geography, in eternity. A craftsman in the king's service, a ghost in painted walls. So now, as you close your eyes, Picture that tomb half-finished, echoing with the whisper of pigment against stone. Picture your hand, steady in the dimness, painting the face of Osiris. And know that in that quiet space, far from the bustling Nile, you helped build a dream meant to last forever. Segment 4. Inside the Temple. Priests' Rituals. In sacred duties, let us now step across the wide stone forecourt of an Egyptian temple, its towering pylons casting long shadows in the morning light. The walls are carved with gods, kings, and cosmic battles, but beyond the monumental facade lies a quieter world. A world not of grand ceremonies for the crowds, but of daily ritual, hidden behind sacred doors, where priests move in silence, veiled in incense and linen. Imagine the hush as you enter. You are a Wab priest, newly initiated, your head shaved, your garments pure. You have fasted, washed in sacred water, and spoken no idle words since dawn. Your task is not to preach, nor to lead masses, but to serve the gods with exactness and devotion. Each temple is a microcosm of the universe. Its floor represents the earth, the ceiling, the sky. The columns, papyrus reeds of the primeval marsh. At its heart, through ever-deepening halls, lies the naos, the shrine where the god's statue rests. This image is not decorative, it is divine. The god lives within it, inhabits it daily, and must be cared for as one would a living being. And so, the ritual begins. You rise before the sun. At first light, you enter the sanctuary, alone or with a small group. The inner doors are opened. You awaken the god with chants, clap your hands softly to dispel evil, and light incense, frankincense, kifi, and myrrh, each smoke rising in slow curling ribbons. The god's statue is washed with water from the Nile, anointed with sacred oils, dressed in fresh linen, adorned with jewelry, flowers, and garlands. A mirror is held to its face to reflect the first rays of the sun. Offerings are placed, bread, fruit, wine, meat, not for feasting, but for honor. And after a moment of reverence, the god is allowed to rest again gently, silently. The door is closed. The offerings are removed, distributed among the temple staff, or burned ritually. Nothing is wasted. Everything is ritualized. It's outside the temple bustles with other duties. Priests maintain scrolls. Astronomer priests watch the stars from the rooftop, charting the sky for omens and calendar keeping. Scribes copy hymns, prayers, and medical texts. Musicians rehearse chants with harp and sistrum. Artisans repair statues and repaint faded glyphs. But you, the priest, do not perform for crowds. Your work is intimate, hidden, cyclical. You do not speak of what you see in the sanctuary. You move through darkened halls where the only sound is your sandals on stone. You breathe incense as easily as air. You know that your service is not for men, but for Mat, the sacred order of the cosmos. And when your time of purity ends, another priest takes your place. The cycle continues, day after day, century after century. The temple endures. Even now, its walls remain at Karnak, at Edfu, at Dendera, columns cracked by time, hieroglyphs worn by sand, but still whispering. So, as you rest now, imagine the quiet breath of a god just awakened, the echo of a hymn in a cool stone chamber, the touch of sunlight on a polished altar, and know that in ancient Egypt holiness was not loud, it was measured, repetitive, and utterly still. Segment 5. The Nile's Gifts. Food, drink, and the simplicity of feasting. Let us leave the hush of the temple now, and return to the flowing heart of Egypt. The Nile, its waters glisten beneath the midday sun. Along its banks, green fields stretch where the rest of the land lies brown and bare. This river was no mere backdrop, it was life itself, and its bounty shaped every table, every meal, and every sacred feast. Imagine yourself now as an ordinary Egyptian preparing food. Your kitchen is simple, open to the air, built with mud brick walls and a low hearth of clay. The scent of roasted grain and simmering onions wafts in the breeze. Chickens cluck nearby, cat dozes in the sun. You begin your day with bread. Not the soft loaves we know today, but heavy, coarse cakes made from emmer wheat or barley. You grind the grain by hand, between two stones. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, back and forth, back and forth. The flour is mixed with water, a pinch of yeast, perhaps date juice. then baked on hot stones or in a beehive-shaped oven. Next comes beer, thick, nourishing, cloudy, brewed with crumbled bread and water. It is not merely a drink, but a meal in itself. Adults and children alike drink it daily, rich in calories and culture. You might prepare a stew if food is plentiful. Onions, lentils, garlic, leeks, and herbs simmered in clay pots. Occasionally fish from the Nile baked in leaves or sun-dried with salt. Meat is rare, mostly eaten during festivals or shared offerings. Duck, goose, or goat if you were lucky. There are dates and figs too, honey in small amounts, salted fish, sometimes fermented, flax oil for cooking, and herbs gathered from field edges, dill, coriander, fenugreek. The act of eating is never rushed. Food is blessed before a meal. Bread is torn, not cut. Meals are shared from communal bowls, often eaten with hands. You sit on the ground, surrounded by family. A reed mat is your table. Even in humble homes, there is ceremony and simplicity. On feast days, the aroma of roasting fills the village. Women sing as they cook. Children chase one another between date palms. Offerings are brought to the temple's baskets of food arranged with care, not abundance. At funerals, bread and beer are given in the name of the departed. It is believed that they, too, must eat in the afterlife. Tomb walls show scenes of banquets, meat piled high, jugs of wine, dancing girls, flutes, and lyres. But these were dreams, ideal feasts for eternity. In daily life, it was the rhythm of small things that nourished the soul. The grinding of grain, the rise of dough, the steam of stew, the breaking of bread. And above it all, the Nile flowed rising in flood, retreating in drought, yet always returning. Its waters brought silt, and the silt brought food, and the food sustained a civilization that lasted 3 millennia. So as you close your eyes, imagine the crackle of a clay oven, the scent of bread browning in the heat. Quiet evening by the river, bowl in hand, the day's work behind you. Simple, unhurried, complete. Segment 6. Pharaoh as God. Power, symbol, and solitude. Now let us lift our gaze from the humble reed mat to the throne gilded, elevated, surrounded by incense and lotus. Let us consider the Pharaoh. To the ancient Egyptians, the Pharaoh was not merely a ruler, was a living god, the embodiment of Horus on earth and son of Ra, the sun itself. His word was law, his body sacred, his image eternal. But what was it like to be the Pharaoh? Imagine yourself cloaked in linen, the crown heavy on your brow, perhaps the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. You are surrounded by courtiers, viziers, priests, scribes. You do not walk alone. Every movement is witnessed, every word recorded. You eat the finest foods, but never truly dine in peace. You sleep beneath embroidered sheets, but never without guards. You are a symbol first, a person second. From the moment of your coronation, you are no longer only Manu or Nesabiti, Lord of the Two Lands. You preside over offerings not only for yourself, but for the gods. You lead festivals, stand at the apex of military campaigns, approve temple construction, and receive foreign dignitaries who bow low. Yet despite this grandeur, you are isolated. You cannot weep in public. You cannot doubt, cannot falter. Your face is carved into stone 1,000 times, but you cannot express the softness of age or the fear of illness. Statues show you eternally youthful, eternally triumphant. But the real you? You may ache. You may age. You may lie awake at night and wonder if the gods still favor you. You are taught from childhood that your blood is divine. You are surrounded by priests who interpret omens, dreams, and signs in the stars. Your palace is a labyrinth of ceremony. You wear perfume of myrrh and cinnamon, and your sandals are made of leather dyed with saffron. But perhaps on certain days you yearn to walk alone beside the Nile, to feel sand between your fingers, to hear a song without it being performed for you. Pharaohs were often patrons of beauty art, architecture, and writing. They commissioned tombs that mirrored the cosmos. They left behind inscriptions declaring their victories, their devotion, their divine right. But behind those proclamations was a human heart, a heart that beat fast in battle, that broke in grief when a wife or son died, that feared betrayal from within its own court. And yet, the illusion had to hold. Even in death, the Pharaoh did not simply pass on. He ascended. He became Osiris, lord of the underworld. His tomb was not just a burial, it was a machine for immortality, stocked with spells, statues, and sacred objects. He ruled in life. He ruled in death. So as you lie still now, imagine the hush of the palace at night, the flickering light of oil lamps, the distant sound of the sistrum from the temple, the weight of eternity pressing gently on your shoulders. You are God. You are king. You are alone. Segment 7. The Afterlife Journey. Death. Mummification. In the field of reeds, let us now pass from the world of the living into the world of the eternal passage, so deeply rooted in the Egyptian soul that death itself was never an end, but merely a door. The ancient Egyptians spent their entire lives preparing for the afterlife. It was not feared, but studied, mapped, imagined, and written about in long, careful detail. Imagine yourself at the threshold. Your body has grown still. The wailing of mourners has softened. Allah. You are now the subject of quiet ritual, your corpse treated not as flesh to be buried, but as a vessel for the soul's journey. Mummification begins. Priests wrap your body in linen layer by layer. They anoint your skin with sacred oils. Your organs are removed and placed into canopic jars, each guarded by one of the 4 sons of Horus. Your heart is left inside, for it must be weighed. Your body is carefully dried with natron salts, then wrapped with charms, amulets, and prayers. The eye of Horus is placed over the chest, a scarab placed near the heart. The wrappings take days, sometimes weeks. Every fold has meaning. All of this to preserve the body for the soul's return. See, to the Egyptians, the soul was not one thing, but many. The Ka, your life force. The Ba, your personality, depicted as a bird with a human face. The Ak, your spirit, transformed through ritual. And so begins your journey through the Duat, the underworld. It is a landscape of mystery and danger. You pass through gates guarded by serpents. You speak passwords to gods with names older than memory. You sail on the solar bark following the path of Ra, the sun god, through darkness toward rebirth. The most solemn moment comes at the Hall of Two Truths. Here stands Anubis, jackal-headed, weighing your heart on a scale. On the other side rests a feather, the feather of Mat, the principle of cosmic order. If your heart is heavy with wrongdoing, it is devoured by Amit, the eater of souls, a creature part lion, part crocodile, part hippopotamus. But if you are pure, you pass into the field of reeds. It is paradise, a mirror of life, but perfected. Crops grow without labor. Water flows without flood. Families are reunited. Music is played beneath fig trees. There is no death here, only peace. You may still own land, sailboats, 10 gardens. You live on forever in a version of the world you once knew. Only now there is no suffering. And yet all of this only happens if the rituals are done properly, if your name is remembered, if your body is intact, if the right spells are said. That is why tombs are filled with inscriptions, chapters from the Book of the Dead, the Book of Gates, the Amduat. These texts are not symbolic, they are maps, manuals, guides for the soul's journey. Even the tomb paintings serve this purpose. Cow guides the sun through night. A scarab rolls it into dawn. Your soul walks between gods who offer bread and beer, light and rebirth. So as you lie still now, imagine that gentle bark floating across calm waters beneath stars. You are surrounded by lotus blossoms. The air smells of frankincense. You are whole, unburdened, ageless. The sun will rise again, and you, eternal now, will rise with it. Segment 8. A day in the life of a temple musician. Let us return once more to the temple, this time not as priest or scribe, but as a musician, a bearer of sound in a world ruled by silence and symbol. In ancient Egypt, music was not for entertainment alone. It was sacred. It was offerings and vibration, played not for crowds, but for gods. The temple musician did not perform to applause, but to attune the air to the divine. Imagine yourself rising with the sun. You are a woman. Perhaps many temple musicians were female, dressed in a pleated linen dress, gold earrings in your ears, your hair braided with care. You walk barefoot through the corridors of the temple, carrying a sistrum, a sacred rattle shaped like a handle with a looped top. It is not a loud instrument. It shimmers, hums, jingles. Your role is part of the daily temple ritual. When the god is awakened, when the incense is burned, you stand nearby and play not with flourish, but in rhythm. Each shake of the sistrum is a gesture of life, meant to gladden the god's heart. Alongside you, a harpist strums slowly. Another musician plays a flute, carved from reed or bone.
Ow.
The melody is repetitive, almost trance-like. It is meant to quiet the mind, to open a channel between the divine and the earthly. Music is believed to drive away evil. Da. In your hymns, the gods are called with phrases like, "Come in peace, O Great One," or "Awake, you who sleep. The light returns." But your day is not limited to performance. You also practice. You tend your instrument, tightening harp strings, reshaping the sistrum's metal rods, polishing its frame. You learn new chants, memorize poems that have been passed down for centuries. Some hymns are sung in Middle Egyptian, a language already ancient to your ears. There are festival days, too. During the Feast of Opet, or the beautiful Feast of the Valley, you join a procession. Your feet walk in time with the drums. Play as sacred statues are carried from temple to temple across the Nile, accompanied by priests, dancers, and citizens, bearing flowers and palm branches. You do not speak much. Through your music, you speak for the soul of Egypt. At home, your life is modest. You may be part of a temple household, your food provided by offerings. You eat figs, lentils, flatbread. You rest on woven mats and bathe in perfumed water on festival days. And when night falls, you sing softly to yourself a hymn to Hathor, goddess of beauty and music, whose mirror you carry in your heart. You are not wealthy, you are not powerful, but your sound ripples through stone corridors that have stood for centuries. Your voice echoes into eternity. So now, as you close your eyes, hear the gentle shake of the sistrum, the distant rise of a harp, soft voice chanting beneath stars. In ancient Egypt, music did not fill space. It created it. Segment 9. The village and the vizier, bureaucracy, power, and quiet control. Let us now walk away from the temples and tombs and into the offices of power. Not the throne room, nor the battlefield, but into the quieter, paper-filled corridors of administration. Here, decisions are made not with swords, but with scrolls. The man who sits at the top of this world is the vizier. Imagine a building made of stone and plaster, cool inside despite the desert heat. Its windows are narrow slits. The rooms echo with the scratch of red pens and the low murmur of men reciting lists. You are in the bureaucratic heart of Egypt, and at its center sits the vizier. He is the chief administrator, second only to the Pharaoh, and his responsibilities are immense. He oversees taxes, justice, agriculture, labor, temple building, tomb construction, even flood prediction. His office is never quiet. It is carefully orchestrated order. Picture the vizier now seated cross-legged behind a low desk surrounded by scribes. He is wrapped in immaculate linen, a scroll open before him. His eyes scan columns of symbols, harvest reports, grain tallies, worker assignments, temple expenditures. He does not raise his voice. He does not rush. Listens, weighs, records, signs. And though he rules no army, he commands enormous influence. Out in the villages, his policies ripple like wind over water. A farmer plowing his field is unknowingly fulfilling a plan crafted in the vizier's chambers. A bricklayer in the tomb complex works according to schedules drawn up in a government archive. A dispute over water rights between two neighboring fields is settled by laws that pass through the vizier's seal. The vizier knows Egypt, its rhythms, its boundaries, its families. His scribes maintain archives so vast and old they stretch back generations. The vizier also oversees justice. He hears legal cases, sometimes simple matters, sometimes disputes between temple estates or noble families. He consults legal codes, precedent, priestly advisors. He is bound not by emotion, but by mad, the sacred principle of balance, fairness, and truth. And though his title commands respect, his daily life is ruled by endless repetition. The vizier does not live in glory, but in consistency. He is like the Nile's flood, predictable, necessary, sustaining. Even the king may ask his advice in complex matters. But the vizier answers with careful words, never ambition. His name might appear in inscriptions, but always secondary to the pharaoh. And in his own home, modest, though elegant, he may rest at night to the soft sounds of flutes in the courtyard, a reed lamp flickering beside a scroll half-read. So as you lie still now, imagine the cool hush of his office, the faint rustle of papyrus, the measured tone of scribes reciting lines, the ever-turning gears of a kingdom held together not by might, but by the patient hand of a man whose power was felt in every corner, yet shouted by none. This was Egypt's strength, not only in stone or gold or myth, but in order. Segment 10. Children of the Nile. Growing up in ancient Egypt now. Let us turn our attention to those often forgotten in the grand accounts of pharaohs and priests. The children, the small hands that played in the sand. The bright eyes that watched the river flow, the voices that laughed beneath palm trees. In ancient Egypt, childhood was fleeting, but meaningful. Imagine yourself now as a child born in a modest village near the Nile. You are barefoot. Your head shaved save for a small side lock of eutha, single braid or curl left to mark your age. Your skin is sun-warmed, your limbs quick and lean. The world around you is vast in wonder. You wake with the light, your family already preparing for the day. Your mother bakes bread at the hearth. Your father gathers tools. You might be asked to help fetching water, gathering kindling, chasing chickens away from the grain stores. But much of your early life is filled with freedom. There are games to play. You and your siblings toss throwing sticks made of carved wood. You chase hoops down dusty paths with reeds. You mold clay into small animals or shape boats to float on the canals. Your toys are simple: rag dolls, carved crocodiles, animal figurines. Some children from wealthier homes might have small stone game boards or dice. But most play with the things found around them: pebbles, leaves, feathers, and their own laughter. And then, as you grow older, life begins to shift. If you are a boy in a farming family, you may begin helping in the fields by age 8 or 9, learning how to sow, how to reap, how to tie bundles with practiced hands. If your family is part of the artisan class, you may apprentice under your father in a workshop, learning to carve wood, paint tombs, or work with copper. If you are a girl, your education is more private, learning from your mother how to grind grain, weave linen, care for the household shrine. You may marry young, perhaps as early as your mid-teens, and begin your own family shortly after. In rare cases, if your family is literate or connected to temple life, you may attend school. Scribes, schools are not playful places. They are strict. You sit on reed mats with other children, copying hieratic script over and over on clay tablets or shards of pottery. You are beaten for mistakes, praised for neatness. But to become a scribe is to rise, to gain a life beyond labor. Children, like adults, are not immune to the fragility of life. Illness, injury, and accident are common. There are amulets strung around your neck, eyes of Horus, scarabs, protective deities, to keep the dangers at bay. Your mother prays to Toret, the hippo goddess of childbirth and protection, to guard your sleep. And yet through it all, your days are filled with rhythm, the splash of water, the scent of bread, the laughter of siblings, the sun glittering on the canal. Wetter out the bebal, I'm on my way. You only know the warmth of your father's voice, the hum of bees in the reeds, and the stories whispered to you at night, of gods who sail the sky, of spirits who walk in dreams, of a river that always returns. So as you rest now, imagine your young self nestled on a woven mat, the stars bright above your village roof. A breeze moves through the palms, and your eyelids grow heavy. In ancient Egypt, even the smallest life carried the weight of eternity. Segment 11. Sacred animals and everyday companions. The animals of ancient Egypt. Now, let us shift our gaze from the homes of people to the lives that shared those spaces, the animals of ancient Egypt, revered and relied upon, worshipped, and worked alongside. In this world, animals were not simply background, were symbols, companions, and often messengers of the divine. Imagine a courtyard at dawn. A cat slinks through the shadows, her steps silent, her eyes sharp. She is not a pet in the modern sense, but a guardian of grain stores, of homes, of spirit. To harm her is a crime. To bury her properly is a sacred act. She is associated with Bastet, the feline goddess of protection, music, and grace. In wealthier homes, cats are adorned with gold earrings, fed choice meats, even mummified upon death. In ordinary villages, they are cherished, fed scraps, watched fondly as they leap between rooftops.
Oh, we're silly listening.
Now listen to the bray of a donkey, somewhere down the road. These sturdy creatures are the workhorses of the Egyptian countryside, carrying water jars, pulling carts, treading threshing floors. They are not glamorous, but they are essential. Their loyalty is unspoken. Their labor, unending. Next, the cattle plodding through the fields, their horns wide and slow. They are wealth, meat, milk, leather. Their hides are tanned into sandals, their bones carved into tools. They are offered in tombs drawn lovingly in art, always plump, always calm. And then there are the birds' ibises, geese, ducks, and falcons. Ibises, with their long curved beaks, were sacred to Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. They are raised in temple compounds, mummified by the thousands, their bodies placed in clay jars and buried in vast underground galleries. Falcons, swift and majestic, represent Horus, the sky god. The pharaoh is often depicted with a falcon's head, or accompanied by a falcon in flight, eyes keen, wings poised. In homes and marketplaces, dogs serve as guards and hunters. They are named, sometimes buried with their owners, depicted on tomb walls chasing game through marshland. The bond is ancient, simple, and enduring. And what of the stranger creatures? Crocodiles, lurking in the Nile's bends, both feared and worshipped. Sobek, the crocodile god, ruled fertility and military might. Temples were built in his name. In some, mummified crocodiles were displayed draped in linen, mouths open in eternal stillness. Hippos, massive and powerful, dangerous to fishermen, yet represented in small household charms. The goddess Toret, protector of childbirth, bore the form of a pregnant hippo with a lion's limbs and crocodile tail, fearsome in form, gentle in intent. Even the humble scarab beetle, rolling its ball of dung across the sand, becomes sacred. It represents Khepri, the rising sun rebirth, movement, creation. Scarabs are carved from stone and worn as amulets, placed in tombs, etched with spells. In Egypt, to live was to live with animals in worship, in partnership, in respect. Their images appear in every temple, every tomb, every amulet, and scroll. They are part of myth, of ritual, of life's daily rhythm. So as you lie in quiet now, imagine the rustle of wings at twilight, the soft purr of a cat curled at your feet, the low murmur of cattle in the night. The Insis ancient land, all creatures had meaning, all breath was sacred. Every life, whether winged or walking, was part of the same great cycle. Segment 12. Desert roads and river boats. Trade and travel in ancient Egypt. Let us now step away from the home, the temple, the two-manned venture outward, beyond the villages, past the date palms, across the flowing Nile and into the horizon, where roads vanish into golden light. In ancient Egypt, travel was not undertaken lightly, but it was constant for work, for trade, for pilgrimage, and always the journey followed two great paths, the river and the desert. Imagine now the morning sun rising over the Nile. You stand on the deck of a small wooden boat, its sail catching the soft wind. The river is wide and slow, its surface dappled with light. Lotus flowers bob near the shore. Fishermen pull in their nets, children wave from the reeds. This is the lifeblood of Egypt, and your route is clear. Traveling north, you float with the current. South, you sail with the wind. Boats of all sizes drift by, reed canoes, cargo barges, ceremonial vessels with painted hulls and linen canopies. Your own boat is loaded with grain, pottery, linen, or incense. A small shrine sits near the mast. You pour a libation to Hapi, god of the river, and begin the day's journey. Trade is steady, deliberate. At way stations, scribes record your goods. Guards check for bandits. You stop at temples to make offerings for safe passage. The air smells of mud, wood, and sun-warmed rope. And then, sometimes, the road turns inland. You disembark, joining a caravan across the desert. Donkeys carry jars of oil, bags of natron, bolts of linen. The desert wind is dry. Your sandals kick up red dust. At night, you camp beneath stars so bright they feel close enough to touch. This desert road may take you to a quarry, where men carve limestone and granite, or to a copper mine in Sinai, where workers chip through blue-veined rock under the harsh sun. Or perhaps to the gold fields of Nubia, where the stone glitters with fortune and danger. Each route is guarded, for bandits lurk in the high passes, and water is scarce. Out carry dried dates, salted fish, water skins. You know the names of every well and rest stop. The farther you go, the more the landscape changes. To the north, you reach the delta, lush and marshy, home to papyrus cutters and bird hunters. Beyond lies the Mediterranean, and ships that bring cedar from Lebanon, wine from Canaan, copper from Cyprus, and lapis lazuli from lands even farther still. Egypt trades with the world. Obsidian, ebony, ivory, and incense from the south. Silver and timber from the north. Glass beads, jewelry, tools, spices. And always in return, Egypt gives grain, gold, linen, and stability. But even those who never leave home feel the effects of trade. A necklace of imported faience in a village girl's dowry. A jar of foreign perfume placed in a tomb. A story told by a traveler at a market, speaking of snow in the mountains or purple dye from beyond the sea. So as you rest now, picture the gentle motion of a boat beneath you, the creak of wood, the slap of rope, the cool spray of the Nile's mist on your face. You're part of something far-reaching, yet always returning. The river flows, the road wins, and Egypt endures. Segment 13. Magic and Medicine. Healing the body and spirit in ancient Egypt now. Let us turn inward toward the body, the breath, the unseen forces that shaped health and illness in the ancient world. To live in Egypt was to live surrounded by mystery and meaning. And nowhere was that more evident than in the practices of healing, where medicine and magic flowed together like the Nile and its canals. Imagine yourself falling ill. A fever, a toothache, a wound that will not close. Your family gathers around you, concerned but not panicked. Help is near. ASWNW, a physician, is summoned. He arrives not with haste, but with calm purpose. He wears a linen tunic, carries a small pouch of toolstone blades, bronze instruments, a reed pen for notes. But more than that, he carries knowledge passed down over centuries. Medicine in Egypt is both scientific and spiritual. The physician may examine you by sight, touch, and scent. He checks your pulse, asks when your last meal was, inspects your tongue, your eyes, your stool. He may consult a scroll, perhaps, the Ebers Papyrus, filled with hundreds of remedies for ailments large and small. Some are practical, a mixture of honey and crushed herbs to disinfect a wound, a poultice of dates and clay to ease swelling, garlic and beer for digestive trouble, incantations for protection during childbirth. Others blend the physical with the divine. For a snakebite, a prayer is recited as the poultice is applied. For fever, a wax figure of the demon may be spat upon and buried. For nightmares, the bed is moved to a new room and surrounded by protective amulets. The boundary between illness and spiritual imbalance is thin. A person may fall sick, not from bad water or diet, but from the evil eye, or the neglect of a family tomb, or the offense of an angered deity. In these cases, it is not the physician, but the Heka priest, the magician healer, who intervenes. Heka, the force of magic, is not illusion, but a fundamental part of reality, the power that the gods themselves use to shape the world. Spells are recited. Symbols are drawn in ochre and water. Protective figures, hippo's eyes, scarabs are placed near the bed. Music may be played to soothe the spirit. And always the presence of mat balance orrery is invoked. Some ailments are feared more than others. Toothaches are common and cruel due to the grit in Egypt's bread. Blindness, too, from sun and sand. Women face danger in childbirth. Children often fall ill. But through it all, the culture responds not with panic, but with ritual. Healing is slow, deliberate, sacred. Even death is not a failure. It is a transition, guided by proper rites and remembered names. So as you lie still now, feel the cool cloth placed on your forehead, hear the soft murmur of a prayer, smell the sharp tang of frankincense and myrrh. Outside, the Nile flows. Inside, balance is being restored. In ancient Egypt, to heal the body was to soothe the soul, and in that they were perhaps not so different from us. Flood and famine. Flood and famine. The fragile balance of Egyptian agriculture. Let us now return to the land itself. The deep, dark soil of the Nile's edge is the heart of Egypt's power and its greatest vulnerability. Ancient Egypt was, above all, a land of agriculture. And while the kingdom's temples and monuments still stand in stone, it was the yearly rhythm of farming that truly sustained this civilization. Imagine now that you are a farmer. You wake before dawn, your body already knowing the day's demands. The air is cool, your tools plow, sickle, basket rest where you left them the evening before. The fields stretch before you, green and silent, waiting for the cycle to begin again. But this cycle depends entirely on one thing: the flood. Each year, in early summer, the Nile begins to rise. Its waters swell from rains far to the south, in lands you'll never see. Slowly, steadily, the river overflows its banks and spreads across the floodplain, soaking the earth, depositing rich black silt. You watch and wait. If the flood is just right, it brings nourishment, fills canals, replenishes wells, and coats the fields with the fertile layer that allows barley and emmer to thrive. But if it is too low, crops will fail. Wells dry, the soil cracks. Hunger begins to whisper. And if the flood is too high, it destroys what it brings, washing away homes, drowning livestock, leaving rot and ruin behind. The balance is delicate. Scribes record the height of the flood on millimeter stone markers, etched with measurements. These readings are sent to the Pharaoh's officials, who determine how much grain will be taxed, how much labor will be demanded, how many mouths must be fed. And so, your labor follows the river's lead. After the floodwaters recede, you and your family begin to plow the wet earth, using wooden plows pulled by oxen. You sow seeds by hand, casting them into the furrows. You tend the crops as they grow, watching for pests, repairing canal walls, praying for good weather. The harvest comes in Shamu, the dry season. You cut the barley with sickles, gather it into sheaves, thresh it by beating the grain with sticks. The chaff is separated with baskets and wind. You haul your share to the granaries, knowing the rest goes to the state, to the temples, to the workers who build the monuments. In good years, you eat well. Flatbread beer, lentils, dates. In bad years, you tighten your belt. Sell livestock, stretch each meal. You remember stories your father told, the great famine that lasted 7 years when the river did not rise at all. You fear the signs, a red sun, dry winds, dying cattle. The gods must be appeased. Offerings are made to Hapi, god of the Nile. Priests perform rites to Osiris, who brings rebirth from the earth. You leave jars of beer at the temple steps. You whisper thanks when the flood is generous, and plead softly when it is not. For all their grandeur, the pyramids were only possible because the soil below them produced food. And that soil was only fertile because the water came. So as you rest now, picture the fields wide and flat beneath the stars. The hush of reeds in the evening wind, the scent of damp earth still warm from the sun. In ancient Egypt, life was not carved in stone. It was grown from mud. Segment 15. The eternal gaze, tombs, memory, and the weight of legacy now. We come at last to the stillness of stone, the hush of dust, the enduring silence of the tomb. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not merely a passage, but a responsibility not just for the soul, but for the living. The tomb was more than a burial site. It was a house of eternity, crafted to outlast the flesh, to hold memory and identity beyond time. Imagine yourself walking through a narrow rock-cut corridor. The light dims, the air cools. The walls begin to speak not with sound, but with painted symbols, carved images, and flickering shadows of gold leaf. You are not in a place of sorrow, but of order, a carefully constructed message to the gods, the ancestors, and the universe itself. Here lies a man or a woman whose name must be spoken, whose life must be remembered, whose Ka, whose Ba, whose Ak must find their way. The tomb begins long before death. If you are wealthy, you spend your later years overseeing its designs, electing scenes of your life to be painted, offerings to be carved, prayers to be written. Scribes pen hymns to Ra, Osiris, and Thoth. Artists depict your harvests, your family, your servant Seech, gesture frozen in ritual perfection. You're shown fishing, feasting, listening to music. You're shown as you wish to be remembered. For to be forgotten is to die a second time. If you are not wealthy, your tomb may be simpler, shallow pit, a few small goods, a handful of shabby figurines to serve you in the next life. But still, a name is written, a prayer offered. You are not alone. Tombs reflect not just identity, but hope. Hope that your children will return with offerings, that your soul will journey safely through the duat, that your story, your face, your name will not vanish like wind over sand. Even the great kings build with this fear in mind. The pyramids, vast, gleaming, precise, are not only monuments to ambition, but acts of defiance against time. They are anchors, holding the pharaoh to the earth, to the gods, to memory. Inside, the corridors twist, the chambers narrow, the sarcophagus rests in absolute stillness. But no tomb, however grand, is eternal. Many are robbed, many forgotten. Some collapse, others are uncovered, millennia later by hands unfamiliar with their prayers. And yet the names live on, in museums, in books, in the slow, respectful tone of a narrator guiding you to sleep. Even now, in this quiet moment, you remember them. So as your breathing slows and your eyes grow heavy, imagine a tomb sealed with care. A lamp flickers, incense burns. A door closes behind you with a soft sound, final and yet comforting. You are remembered. You are at rest. You are part of the rhythm. In ancient Egypt, to be remembered was to live forever. And now, the journey draws to its close. We have drifted down the Nile together through reed-choked canals and temple shadows, across golden fields and into the echoing silence of the tomb. You have stood in the sandals of a sailor, a priest, a mother, a scribe. You have walked with the humble and the powerful. You have breathed the incense of the gods and felt the weight of stone upon your chest. Through all of it, one thing endures: rhythm. The steady, flowing rhythm of ancient Egyptian life, of sun and flood, of planting and harvest, of birth and burial, of the rising and setting of stars that still glow above us. In this world, time does not rush, it unfolds. Slowly, gently, like sand drifting through fingers, like a hymn murmured at dawn, like a boat gliding across moonlit water. And so now let your thoughts settle, like silt after the flood. Feel the stillness of the stone temple, the hush of the desert night, the coolness of the tomb's inner chamber. The flickering oil lamp fades. The last page of the scroll rolls shut. The gods close their eyes. You are safe. You are still. You are part of something ancient. Let the past cradle you as sleep gently takes hold. And may the dreams that follow carry you down calm waters, toward peace and rest and the soft sands of eternity. Good night.